March 17th, 2018, 6:23 in the morning. I was standing in my kitchen holding a cup of Folgers coffee that had gone cold in my hands, and for the first time in 85 years, I heard silence. Real silence. Not the kind where the house is quiet, but the kind where your mind stops screaming at you. That's when I knew I'd been living wrong my entire life. The coffee cup slipped from my fingers and shattered on the linoleum floor, and I didn't even flinch. I just stood there, surrounded by ceramic shards and brown puddles, finally understanding what peace actually meant. It wasn't what I'd been chasing for 8 decades. It wasn't what the church ladies at First Baptist had promised me. It wasn't what Dr. Morrison had prescribed when he handed me those little white pills for my nerves back in 1963. It was something else entirely. Something so simple that I wanted to scream at every year I'd wasted not knowing it. I'm 91 now. I've got maybe 5 years left if I'm lucky, maybe less if I'm honest. And I spend every single day wishing I could go back and shake my 30-year-old self until her teeth rattled. Because everything I thought I knew about finding peace was backwards, completely, utterly backwards. At 30, I was Margaret Ann Sullivan, mother of 3 under 5, wife to a Ford assembly line worker named Frank, and the most anxious woman in all of Dearborn, Michigan. I had this idea that peace came from having everything under control. Every dish washed before bedtime, every school permission slip signed in perfect cursive, every grocery list organized by aisle so I wouldn't waste a single minute in the Piggly Wiggly. I thought if I could just manage everything perfectly, if I could anticipate every problem before it happened, if I could keep every ball in the air without dropping one, then peace would descend on me like some kind of holy blessing. What a fool I was. Frank would come home from the plant covered in grease and metal shavings, his lunch pail empty, and I'd already have his dinner warming in the oven, his clean clothes laid out on the bed, and the children bathed and quiet. I thought I was creating peace, but my heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird every single day. Every morning I'd wake up with a list of 17 things that needed to be done before Frank left for work. Make breakfast. Pack his lunch with exactly 2 bologna sandwiches, 1 apple, and a thermos of coffee. Check that little Tommy had his homework in his backpack. Remind Susan to take her sweater because March mornings were still cold. Make sure baby Catherine's bottles were ready for when she got hungry. Iron Frank's work shirt because wrinkles meant I wasn't taking care of my family properly. That's what my mother had taught me. That's what every woman in my neighborhood believed. Peace came from perfection, from never letting anything slip through the cracks. I don't know who needs to hear this, but if you're still here listening to an old woman ramble, maybe you understand what I'm talking about. The suffocating weight of trying to control everything. Subscribe if you want to hear how wrong I was about everything. By 35, I'd added 4 more children to the mix and a part-time job at Woolworths. By 40, Frank's drinking had started, and I convinced myself that if I could just manage that too, if I could hide the bottles and make excuses to the neighbors and keep the house looking perfect, then peace would still be possible. I remember standing in the kitchen one Thursday evening in 1967, stirring a pot of beef stew with one hand while bouncing baby number 6 on my hip, watching Frank stumble through the front door 3 hours late, and thinking, this is temporary. Once I get everything figured out, once I solve all these problems, then I'll have peace. I was 39 years old and I hadn't slept through the night in a decade. My stomach was a knot of acid that burned from morning till bedtime. My hands shook when I thought no one was looking. I'd started taking those little yellow pills that Dr. Morrison prescribed, the ones that made everything feel wrapped in cotton, but never actually fixed anything. And still, I believed peace was just around the corner, just one more organized closet away, just one more family crisis solved, just one more mess cleaned up. The children grew up and moved away one by one, taking their chaos with them. Frank retired from Ford in 1982 and spent his days in his lazy boy chair, watching game shows and drinking beer. The house got quieter. I thought, finally, this is when peace comes. But it didn't. The silence just made the noise in my head louder. Without 7 kids and a husband to manage, without a house full of emergencies to solve, I realized that the chaos hadn't been keeping me from peace. The chaos had been hiding something much worse. I'd never learned how to be still, never learned how to exist without a crisis to fix or a problem to solve. Without the daily disasters of raising a family, I was left alone with myself for the first time in 40 years, and I discovered I had no idea who that person was. Frank died in 1995, heart attack while watching Jeopardy! I was 67. And suddenly I had all the peace and quiet I'd been craving my entire adult life. The house stayed clean because no one was there to mess it up. No one needed dinner at 6 sharp. No one needed their work clothes ironed or their lunch packed. I could sleep until noon if I wanted. I could leave dishes in the sink overnight. I could do whatever I pleased. And I was miserable. Absolutely, completely miserable, because I finally understood that I'd spent 40 years chasing the wrong thing entirely. Peace wasn't the absence of chaos. Peace wasn't having everything under control. Peace wasn't a clean house or a managed schedule or a family that looked perfect from the outside. Peace wasn't something you earned by being good enough or organized enough or strong enough. Someone once told me there are rules that change after 60. One of them says that sacrifice without boundaries isn't love, it's self-destruction. I wish I'd known that 30 years ago. If you want to know what those rules are, it's in the description. I spent my 70s trying to figure out what I was supposed to do with myself. I volunteered at the library. I joined the Methodist Church because the Baptist one reminded me too much of all the years I'd spent praying for peace that never came. I took up gardening because people said it was peaceful. I planted tomatoes and roses and tried to find meaning in the dirt under my fingernails. But even in the garden, surrounded by growing things and birdsong, my mind was still racing, still making lists of things that needed to be done, still trying to control outcomes I had no business controlling, still believing that peace was something I had to manufacture through effort and willpower. Then came that morning in March when I was 85, 6 months after my granddaughter Sarah had moved in to help take care of me after my fall. Sarah was 28, working 2 jobs, trying to finish her nursing degree and dealing with her own chaos. She'd come into the kitchen that morning looking exhausted, her scrubs wrinkled, her hair falling out of its ponytail. "Grandma," she said, "I can't do this anymore. I can't keep up with school and work and taking care of you and my own life. Something's got to give." And instead of trying to fix it for her, instead of offering solutions or making suggestions or telling her how to manage it all better, I just looked at her and said, "Then let it give." That's when the coffee cup slipped from my hands, because in that moment I finally understood what I'd been doing wrong for 85 years. I'd been trying to prevent things from giving, trying to hold it all together with sheer force of will, trying to control every variable and manage every outcome and fix every problem before it became a real problem. But peace doesn't come from preventing the giving. Peace comes from accepting it, from understanding that some things are supposed to fall apart, that some chaos is necessary, that some problems aren't meant to be solved, just experienced. Sarah started crying when I said that, and I realized she'd inherited the same curse I'd carried my whole life. The belief that if she just tried harder, organized better, sacrificed more, she could hold everything together. The same lie I believed at her age, the same exhausting, soul-crushing lie. I sat down at the kitchen table and told her about the coffee cup, about the silence I'd heard for the first time in my life, about how I'd finally understood that peace wasn't the reward for perfect management. It was what happened when you stopped trying to manage everything, when you accepted that some things are supposed to be messy, that some mornings the coffee goes cold, that some days you can't do it all, that some problems solve themselves if you just step back and let them. We spent the next 3 hours talking about everything I'd learned too late, about how the pursuit of peace had stolen my peace, about how the fear of chaos had created more chaos, about how trying to control everything had left me feeling out of control my entire life. Everything I learned about patience, about sacrifice, about trust, it's all in something called the 60-year rule. 9 rules that reverse after 60. I wish someone had given me this 20 years ago. The link is right below this video. Sarah graduated nursing school last year. She's still working 2 jobs, but she's different now. She leaves dishes in the sink sometimes. She says no to things that don't matter. She lets some balls drop because she finally understands that not every ball is made of glass. Some are made of rubber, and they bounce back just fine without her catching them. I'm 91 now, and I finally have the peace I spent 8 decades chasing. But it didn't come from getting everything under control. It came from letting go of the need to control anything. It didn't come from solving all my problems. It came from accepting that some problems aren't problems at all, just life being life. It didn't come from managing my chaos. It came from dancing with it instead of fighting it. The garden behind my house is overgrown now. The tomatoes grow wild and the roses bloom when they want to, not when I think they should. Sometimes I sit on the old wooden bench Frank built in 1978 and watch the weeds take over the flower beds I used to keep perfect. And you know what? It's beautiful, more beautiful than it ever was when I was trying to control every blade of grass. The birds seem happier too. They build nests in the unpruned bushes and sing louder in the morning. Nature knows something I took 85 years to learn, that peace isn't found in perfection. It's found in acceptance, in letting things be what they are instead of what you think they should be, If I could go back and tell my 30-year-old self one thing, it would be this: stop trying so hard. Stop believing that peace is something you earn through effort. Stop thinking that if you just manage everything perfectly, happiness will be your reward. Peace isn't waiting at the end of your to-do list. It's not hiding behind your next accomplished goal. It's not the prize you get for being good enough or organized enough or strong enough. Peace is what's left when you stop fighting everything that's trying to flow through your life. It's what remains when you quit trying to dam the river and just learn to swim with the current instead. The secret I discovered at 85 isn't really a secret at all. Every wise person throughout history has tried to tell us the same thing. Peace comes from surrender, not control, from acceptance, not management, from letting go, not holding on tighter. But we don't listen when we're young because we think we're different. We think we can handle it all if we just try hard enough. We think peace is the reward for perfect effort. I wasted 85 years learning what could have been understood in a single moment of honest stillness. But maybe that's okay too. Maybe everything happens exactly when it's supposed to. Maybe my 85-year-old revelation was right on time, not 6 decades too late. Maybe sharing this with you right now is exactly what's supposed to happen. Maybe you won't have to wait as long as I did. Maybe you'll put down whatever you're trying so hard to hold up and discover that it holds itself up just fine without your help. Maybe you'll find your peace not by chasing it, but by stopping the chase entirely. The coffee stains are still on my kitchen floor from that morning 6 years ago. I never cleaned them up. Every time I see them, I remember the sound that cup made when it shattered, the sound of something letting go, the sound of surrender, the sound of peace, finally arriving after 85 years of trying to force it into existence. It's the most beautiful sound I've ever heard.